In the previous video, we have added a button, add line over here. So if I press this, and let's say my cursor is over here and I press down my mouse button and I move it, I can actually create lines. Okay, and as I lift up my, I release the mouse button. Okay, so it goes up. And I move my cursor. Okay, it does not add any more lines or continue drawing the lines. And if I want to add another line, I just have to press down my mouse and move it and lift it up. And this is the line created over here. But let's say, okay, I want to select a particular line. Now, let's say I want to select this line over here. I can't do it because if I press my mouse button, all right, a new line is created instead, and I can't select it. So for this part of the tutorial, we will learn how to select lines by deactivating the addition of lines over here. Okay, the adding of lines, I mean. All right, but before we do that, okay, I just want to do a little bit of styling, okay, for this button, add line, and let's say the top part of our canvas area over here. All right. So now let's get started. Okay, so in the HTML, what we did was we added the canvas element and the button, okay, the add line button. So let's do some styling. Okay, so what I want to do is to wrap this button, okay, in a div. All right. And this div, all right, so it means the button goes inside the div over here. And let's say this div, I give it an ID of 2bar. Okay. And I want this div, okay, to be at the top of the canvas. So since the ID is 2bar, let's go to our CSS. And let's say the 2bar, I want the position to be the position of the button. All right. And let's give it a background color. Okay, so background color of, let's say, okay, let's choose this first and see whether we can adjust this. Maybe something like this, okay, or some gray, dark gray color over here. Okay, and I want the font, okay, the font color to be white in color. Okay, let's just see what happens. All right, so as you can see, we can't actually see the div. Okay, let's inspect where is the div. All right, the div is actually on the top left, okay, but it does not have a width and a height. So I need to specifically indicate what is the width and the height. So let's say the width would be 100%. And the height to be, let's say, 50 pixels. Okay. And now we can see that the div is over here. All right. So this would be our background for all the buttons that we'll be adding on. All right. So this is the first button, add line button. So I want to position this a little bit more at the center. Okay. So let's do that. All right. So now the position of the button shouldn't be absolute, and we do not need the top and the left position. So what we can do, we can say float would be left. All right. Since we want the button to be on the left side of the screen. Okay. So, and from here we can say margin left to be, let's say, 20 pixels. Okay, so it's not at the edge of the screen. Okay, it will be 20 pixels away from the edge of the screen. All right, and maybe give it a padding of 5 pixels. Okay, and let's give this a height of maybe 30 pixels. All right, so let's see what we have. Okay, so we have this over here. All right, so now let's try to align this button, okay, at the center vertically. Okay, so move it down a little bit. So what can we have? Okay, so you can have a margin top of, let's say, 10 pixels, and see whether this would be at the center. Yes. All right, so we have this over here, and let's add some background color to this button. All right, so let's say background color. Okay, let's choose a color first, and let's just try to adjust this. So what we can have is maybe this color over here. Okay, and let's see what we have. All right, now the color looks okay, but now we can't see the text. All right, as you can see, we can't see the text over here. Okay, so we can actually change the font color to white. All right, so now we can see the font color. Okay, and I want to add some hovering changes. Okay, so like, let's say if the cursor hovers, okay, on the button, all right, I want to change the background color. So we can say hover over here. All right, and the background color, so we can change this to make it lighter, maybe something like this. All right, and we can say that the cursor, okay, now our default cursor is this. All right, this is our default cursor. Okay, so I want to change it to a pointer instead. All right, so save it, and let's see what we have. As you can see, the cursor changed to a pointer, and the background color changes as well. Okay, so this is our button over here. All right, and now let's add another button. Okay, because now what we want to do is to select the line and not add any more lines. All right, so let's do that. So on our HTML, okay, what we can do is to add another button. All right, and this button would be called Deactivate. So Deactivate button to deactivate the adding of line, and let's give this an ID of Deactivate adding shape. Okay, deactivate adding shape over here. All right, so now this has to be beside this add line button. Okay, and let's give them a class. All right, a class of buttons, or button. Okay, class of button over here. All right, and let's go to our CSS. Okay, and this class, it will be float left, margin left, padding, height, margin top. All right, and the color of white would be in this class instead. Okay, so this color of white will be over here. So I do not have to keep on typing for each of the buttons. So all the buttons having this oh sorry, it's not class. Okay, so it's button. right? Okay, so the class is button. So all the buttons having this class would have these properties, okay, CSS properties over here. All right. So now what we have to do is to see, we have to add some more additional properties for our deactivate button. Okay, so deactivate adding shape button. So this should be deactivate adding shape. Okay, maybe I should say that this is a button and this as well. Okay, so this I should add button over here. All right. So let's say, let's change this background color to something different because this is a different button. So instead of it being this color, let's change it to maybe blue in color over here. Okay. So let's copy this, paste this over here, and let this be a lighter color, something like this. Okay, let's see what we have. Okay, so as you can see, we have the deactivate button over here and the add line button over here. All right. So now, let's add some functionality to this deactivate button. Okay, so coming back here, all right, we have our HTML all settled, CSS settled. Now we go to the JavaScript file. Okay, to our JavaScript file. So in our JavaScript file, all right, when we click on the button, okay, the adding line button, these three events would fire off. Okay, well, would be activated. Okay, not fire off yet. So the mouse down, mouse move, and mouse up events. All right. So when I press my mouse down, okay, this event would fire off and the start adding of line, okay, would occur. All right. So this is the function for the addition, or rather the adding of the lines. All right. And when I move my mouse, okay, so the event will fire off and this start drawing line, okay, is the function. All right. So over here, when mouse down is true, all this would happen. Okay. So the line, at first it was a point and the point becomes a line. And we have the other event, the last event, which is mouse up. Okay. So if I stop pressing my mouse button, okay, the drawing of the line will stop. So now if I want to deactivate it, okay, by clicking this deactivate button, okay, first thing what we need to do is to reference this button. Okay, so let's do that. So let deactivate, okay, adding shape button equals to document dot get element by ID deactivate adding shape button. All right, and we need to add an event listener to this button. So deactivate adding shape button dot add event listener, and it would be a click event, and there must be a function associated to this click. Okay, so after we click it, what we want it to do. All right, so let's name this function to be deactivate adding shape. All right, so this would be the name of the function, and we have to write some coding inside this function over here. All right, so what do we want to do? Okay, we want to stop, okay, the adding of lines, and when we press the adding of line button, okay, these are the three event listeners, okay, that would occur, okay, that are switched on. So what we can do is to switch them off. All right, so let's switch them off. So over here, instead of it being on, it will be off. Okay, so this is one of the ways, okay, to switch off, okay, the event listeners for Fabric canvas. All right, it's just the opposite of on. Okay, and let's see what happens. All right, so now I press add line. I can add my lines over here. When I press deactivate, okay, I can't select the lines, but as you can see, I'm no more drawing any of the lines. Okay, but I can't select them. So why is this so? All right. So over here, okay, when we draw the line, all right, when we draw the line, all right, Fabric canvas, it actually does not know where exactly is the line. Okay, we can actually visually see it. Okay, we can visually see the line, but we need to tell Fabric canvas, okay, the coordinates of the line. And in order to do that, okay, we can actually write a code, a line of code in the stop drawing line function, okay, which is the mouse up function. And over here we can say line dot set coords, okay, so short form for set coordinates. Now once we do this, all right, the coordinates would be updated, okay, and Fabric would know where is the line, and from there we can actually select the line. All right, so now let's try this again. So we add the line, deactivate, and now we can select the line, and we actually are no more drawing, okay, the line. All right, so now let's try to add lines again over here. All right, and there's actually an issue. All right, the issue is when we add a line quite close. Okay, let's say if I move the cursor very close to a created line already. Now, not only am I adding a new line and drawing it, okay, I'm actually also selecting the line, okay, where my cursor is quite close to it. All right, so let's say my cursor is very close to this line and I want to draw. Okay, I'm also selecting this line as well. Now, in order to rectify this issue, what we can do is to set an additional property for our line over here. So this start adding line, okay, is actually a mouse down event. All right, so when we press our mouse down, okay, we start adding the line, and we gave it some properties. So the stroke color is red and the stroke width is 3. So now let's try to make the selectable property false. Okay, so when we make it false, all right, let's say now when I add the line, okay, if I'm very close to this, I can't select it. As you can see, I can't select it anymore. All right, okay, and you realize something, the cursor changes. Okay, so if I'm far away from the line, it's just a normal default mouse arrow cursor. If I go near to it, it's actually the drag cursor, but I'm not dragging anything. All right, so we can actually rectify this as well. Okay, what we can do is for the function over here, okay, activate adding line, this would be when we click the add line button, we can say canvas dot default cursor or default, okay, default cursor. All right, let it be auto. Okay, let's see whether this works. All right, canvas dot default cursor equals to auto. So if I add the line, so it still does not work. Okay, so I believe it would be the hover cursor. Okay, let's try hover. As you can see, all right, it does not change. Okay, so it's the hover cursor. All right, so now the lines are not selectable. Okay, even if I go near it. All right, but there is another issue now. Okay, because when I deactivate it, I want to select the line and I can't select it. Okay, why is this so? Well, it's because we have made all these lines unselectable. All right, in our property over here. Okay, when we start adding the line is not selectable. All right, so what we can do, okay, after we click the deactivate button, okay, when we click the deactivate button, we have to make all the lines selectable again. All right, and there are actually a few ways to do it. Okay, one of the ways would be, okay, from this start adding of, not start adding of line, but when we start adding of line, start adding of line. Okay, that will be a mouse down event. All right, we can actually give this line an ID of, let's say, added line. All right, so we can actually identify all the lines that we have added onto the Fabric board. Okay, that this line has an ID of added line. All right, so now when we click the deactivate button, so over here, okay, we want all these lines that have this ID of added line to be selectable back again. And this is how we can do it. We can say canvas.get objects, so means we get all the objects that are on the canvas, and for each of them, so dot for each of them. All right, then O represents the objects, okay, each of the objects. All right, and we say that if O.id is equals to added line. All right, so if the object has this ID of added line, we set this object, okay, for it to be selectable. So selectable, all right, must be true. Okay, so now if we do this, let's see what happens. Okay, so we add the lines. All right, we add the lines, and let's say we deactivate, and now we can select the lines. All right, we can select the lines. But as just now previously, as you can see, if we go near to the object, okay, the cursor actually changes, okay, to the drag cursor. So what we can do is to change the cursor back, okay, because now we have changed the hover cursor to auto over here. All right, so we can change it back to drag. Okay, so we can write canvas dot hover cursor is equals to drag. Okay, so this is after we press the deactivate button. So let's try. So we add the line over here. We press the deactivate button. So it's still not drag. So maybe the name of this hover cursor is not drag. Let's do some Googling. Okay, so let's say cursor CSS property. All right, let's see what is the name for it. Okay, So see over here, we have this. Oh yeah, so it's all scroll instead. Okay, all scroll. All right, so let's go back here. So it's not drag, it's all scroll. So let's change this, and we add the line, we deactivate, and as you can see, the cursor changes to the all scroll cursor. All right, so everything seems all right over here. Okay, but now there is an additional problem. Okay, so let me refresh this. So let's say I add the line, I press the button, I add lines over here. And let's say if I press this button again, add line. So, well, we can still add line, but now let's say if I deactivate. Okay, so I can select the object, but not only that, I'm still drawing a line. Okay, so why is this so? Alright, so I press the button twice over here, and I press the deactivate button once, and not only can I select the line that I want to select, I'm drawing a new line. Okay, so in the next video, I will try to talk about this. Okay, I will talk about this, and we will learn, okay, how to rectify this problem. Alright, so see you soon.